8:13 on your Friday morning, and the country is still reacting to the Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe versus Wade. President Biden is calling on Democrats to break the Senate filibuster to protect abortion access, but several lawmakers within the party say there is not enough support to change the rule. We have 9 News health expert Dr. Payal Kohli joining us now in studio to talk about how the SCOTUS decision is going to impact women's health care. Dr. Kohli, thank you so much for being with us, because this is something that you turn on the radio, you go out to happy hour. People are still very heavily talking about this topic. So first and foremost, I just want to know, let's call it the elephant in the room right now. You're talking to 2 men right now, so we're trying to do our research as well. How is this affecting women's health care?
You know, we already know what's going to happen to women's health care, because that's what happened, pre-Roe versus Wade in 1973. We also have data from other countries that tells us that restricting access to legal abortions doesn't reduce the number of abortions, it reduces the number of safe abortions. So what we're going to see and what we expect to see is an increase in maternal deaths and maternal complications that are occurring. In fact, data out of the University of Colorado tells us that in this coming year, it'll be about a 7% increase, and then in subsequent years, it'll be as high as 21% increase.
And as we're talking about these percentages, we're talking also just kind of women in general, but when we kind of start to really dive into those numbers, we're seeing kind of a bit of a disproportionate effect, right?
We really are. I mean, this is something we've struggled with women's health care for a long time. Women of color and lower socioeconomic status are disproportionately affected with deaths and complications during pregnancy. And this sort of a ruling is actually just going to exacerbate that difference, because as you can imagine, they won't have access to the resources to get those safe abortions. Right. They won't have access to care, potentially, if they're having a maternal complication in a state that doesn't have, termination of pregnancy as an option. So we're really going to see that disparity widen, unfortunately.
Yeah, now, another thing that we're easily talking about when it comes to that is what impact will this have on some of these medical providers?
The American College of Gynecology and Obstetrics, the American Medical Association, pretty much everyone unanimously is horrified by this decision, because it's really tied our hands in our ability to deliver termination of pregnancy as a treatment option to women that might need it. Now, you can also imagine we're very confused, because every state has different laws. And
right.
As a provider myself, who I consider myself very educated and in the know, I don't exactly know what's legal and what's illegal
right.
anymore. What can I advise my patient? What can I offer my patient? What if my patient doesn't have her life imminently in danger, but it could be in the next week or 2 weeks? Can I still offer her that abortion today? And then, of course, the training of the next generation of physicians, I think, is also going to get impacted, because they're saying up to 40% of residents or trainees are training in states where abortion is no longer legal. So these doctors won't know how to terminate a pregnancy if they ever needed to going forward.
That's fascinating. I didn't even think about that fact. You're right, though, about the laws being different in every state, and they're changing day to day depending on what we're seeing play out in the courts right now. Another question that I'm really curious about, too, again, a man trying to understand this a little bit better, is the medical circumstances under which abortion might be the only option.
There are so many. So, of course, we think about abortion sometimes as a choice, but sometimes it's not a choice, it's actually an intervention or a treatment. So if mom's life is in danger, and we talk about, for example, ectopic pregnancy, so the pregnancy implanted in the fallopian tube rather than the uterus, mom is going to die as that pregnancy grows. You just don't know exactly when she will. We talk about conditions like peripartum cardiomyopathy. I had a patient like that when I was in training. Her heart got very weak during her first pregnancy. We told her never to get pregnant again. She used contraception, still got pregnant again. And we knew that if we let her continue that pregnancy, she and the baby would have died, because her heart could not have sustained the pregnancy. Mm-hmm. And then there's also baby conditions, right, where there are genetic defects that prevent the baby from being viable outside of the womb. So we know that the baby is going to be born as a stillbirth. So what are the ethical implications of carrying that all the way to, completion?
There's a lot of things to weigh when you're talking about this. It's not a simple solution or a simple topic by any means, but Dr. Kohli, we very much appreciate you trying to break this thing down for us further. Thank you.